Welcome to Final Fantasy IV. Welcome to the Wishing at the Tower of Wishes. Or, why I don't know how all that stuff made it through in Breath of Fire 2. The path to the moon is now open, but not just for Golbez. Okay, unlike any other ship in the Final Fantasy series up to this point, the Great Whale is an actual location. And it has a couple of useful amenities, too. It has sleeping pods, it has a fat chocobo for item storage. But we're not actually going to wander around the moon quite yet. There's one last thing on Earth we still need to pick up. And for that, we need the Enterprise. And an app. The whole ship as an actual place you could walk around in-game wouldn't return until Final Fantasy VI, with both of Setzer's airships. Yep, there's now something here that will be very useful to us. The Excalibur. So yeah, the Excalibur is a huge boost above the Defender Sword. And I'm going to need it for the things that I want to do when I'm actually on the moon. Oh yeah, if you return to the smithy shop anytime after that, it becomes an actual shop that sells Yoichi arrows, regular shuriken, and the more powerful ninja's shuriken, though all at a very high price. So now we're actually going to explore the moon. Okay, the moon actually has a much smaller world surface area than Earth does, which is very nice. A nice touch, anyway. So now we need to go exploring. The first clue as to the... Well, first off, there are monsters that need to get blown up. New versions of the pudding. Nothing to worry about. Edge can just blow them up. So the first clue that there might be a bit of a connection going on here is the fact that the music for the lunar surface caves is the same as the music in the Mount Ordeal's shrine. Yeah, prokaryote and eukaryote because, I don't know, character limits, mistranslations, Prokaryotes and eukaryotes poison your party, red worms do vampire and get blown up by fire, but Leviathan can blow up anything. Leviathan is still my beatstick of choice for when I just can't be bothered. And I'm glad I brought the Excalibur and, well, that I found out that you can get it this early, because it's more than twice as powerful as the Defender Sword in practice. So we got a monster in a box, but nothing that Rydia can't take care of. See, just a little cast, and you wash away all the germs. And an elixir. Grenades are just the highest tier of bomb-type enemies. However, they do have a little something special going on in that grenades actually have a very, very low chance of dropping the bomb summon. I've been playing this game for about... how many? About 23 years or more now, and I've only ever gotten the bomb summon once. And I'm not likely to get it again this time either. Aside from a few scattered treasures, the lunar caves don't really have much special to offer. Aside from hordes of monsters, but that's true of most dungeons. Alright. Poison is still a thing even at this point in the game. We're getting pretty close to the final stretch of the game. And one thing I have to say is that there are a lot of games that just kind of fall apart as you get to the end game for one reason or another. Either because you can see what the conclusion is going to be, but it takes a long time to get there. The game as a whole takes a long time to get to the point. There's some weird twist that comes out of nowhere. There are a whole bunch of failure states that can occur with RPGs or any long-form game. But the thing about Final Fantasy IV is that it just keeps on getting stronger. And there's Crystal. But I'm going to need some experience, so we're going to fight some monsters on this healing tile. So these are brain-dead versions of monsters we're actually going to have to fight sometime soon. And they use attacks that they don't normally have access to, and they miss with all of them. However, they still give the same gold and experience totals as the versions that you actually fight in the proper location. There are actually a few of these kinds of encounters scattered throughout the game, but this is the one I actually remember the location of the most, so I decided to include it. I don't know how these snuck in here. You activate them the same way you would a monster in a box by pressing A when facing the appropriate tile. But I guess this is just the thing, I guess this is just something that got left out of the garbage collection during crunch time. And down he goes. Now we're gonna heal up. There's another panel that restores MP on the other side, but I don't really need to use it. Welcome to the moon. Aha! I think the fact that this takes place in the solar system is an addition for the English script. Well, okay, they just built another one. Now, even in comparison to a lot of the other characters in this game, Fusoya has some weird translation choices. But I think that's okay, because Fusoya is technically an alien. Well, we better get on that then. But Zemus wants to conquer the world. Not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens. That makes Fusoya Cecil's uncle. Does make me wonder, though, how long Cluya was on the Earth before he had his kids. If Fusoya is already this old. Yeah, we can't get in anymore. They blew the bridge, they put up a shield. Okay, so Fusoya is basically Super Tella. He has every white and black magic spell, but somewhat limited magic points. Also, he is a better white magic caster than a black magic caster. And I should have probably bought better gear for him before doing this. Ah, well, can't be helped. Okay, I skipped the walk back to the Great Whale. Because there is something else I want to do on the moon before I actually head back to Earth to settle things with Golbez and Zemus. Well, Golbez anyway. Zemus is still asleep, I guess. But one other thing before I go into the optional dungeon on the moon. This is where the naming ways came from. Because it's a bit hard to tell here, but the naming ways are rabbits. See, there's one right there. Now the thing is, one of these people is a merchant. A merchant that could very easily bankrupt even my ridiculous cash reserve. They sell Ether 2s, elixirs, a whole bunch of stuff, really. There is only one other area on the moon we can go to, and this is it. As soon as we claw through these things, Fusoya got poisoned. Smacked around a bit, so I can't have him in the front line. No, wait, he was in the back. Yep, we're going after Bahamut right now. The thing about Bahamut Cave is that the monsters in here are the same monsters you find in the early levels of the final dungeon, so there's a very definite risk of going in here right now. However, Edge needs better equipment, and this is the only place I can get some for him. Getting Bahamut will be nice too. I think he needs to be able to take a punch more than anything else. He's the only other frontline capable character I really have right now. Nope. Ah, here we go. Hey, 3 kinds of enemies in one encounter. Works for me. Okay. Warlocks cast Fire 2 and also Drain MP. Carries, I guess, Kali, do physical damage, and Red Giants attack and use a magic attack called Emission, which just casts fire on your entire party. Red Giants also have a nasty counterattack where if you hit them with any black magic, they self-destruct, dealing an incredible amount of damage because Red Giants have a huge amount of hit points. Which is why I'm being a lot more careful than usual with my summons. The problem with Magic Drain in Final Fantasy IV is that its effectiveness is reduced by magic defense, so the kind of creatures you'd really like to cast it on, which is to say mages, it will do pretty much nothing to. Anyway, as for the actual videos, I know I've gotten rather suddenly back to my old pace, but that's because my new controller has arrived, so I won't have to keep on borrowing my brother's for Dark Souls. And there's something about playing Final Fantasy IV with a controller that makes it 1990, let's see, when did we get this? Yeah, something that makes it 1992 again. And the Boner Dagon. Weak against fire and not much else. Thankfully, we can give a little fire to this Scarecrow. That'll do it. And playing through this segment again actually got me thinking about a certain thing that seems to happen among other Retronauts. I'm beginning to wonder if the fact that they're wondering if the people who complain about modern games are so easy these days aren't looking at things from a very skewed perspective, because most of the people who are complaining about this sort of thing are people who already have 20 or 30 years experience in video gaming anyways, and a lot of gaming skills are transferable for action or strategy or anything like that, or even just an ability to adapt to the rules that a particular game or genre sets down. Because the games we played when we were younger were at a time where we hadn't quite completely figured out how games work. Well, anyway, Edge is now completely decked out in the Genji equipment, well, minus the shield. And Rydia has learned Quake, which will be useful to us later, but not right now. I have other ways of dealing with things. Oh, and this is our first behemoth. So, the behemoth has unbelievable magic defense. It has as much magic defense as puddings have physical defense. And it has very strong physical counterattacks. It has a boatload of hit points. So the only thing we can really do is blink as many characters as we feel like and berserk Cecil and Edge to kill it in as few attacks as possible. The Behemoth, like many other things that hate the player in the Final Fantasy series, originated in Final Fantasy II. Both of them, one of them was a regular boss, and the King Behemoth was a monster in a box. Very many bosses in the final dungeon of Final Fantasy II were monsters in boxes. In fact, the only one who wasn't was the Emperor. So, down goes the Behemoth, up come our rewards, which are quite substantial. And the reason I'm not going to be giving a stat block for Behemoths, even though they have the boss music, is that we will be fighting a lot of them, and there will eventually show up as random encounters. Another thing is that if you've seen one Behemoth boss fight, well, one Behemoth fight, you've seen all of them. Anyway, my earlier thoughts on difficulty came up because even though I said there was a risk, I'm just blowing right through this part. I certainly didn't do that when we first had the game. I'm gonna dump a couple of ethers because I need the MP to accomplish what I have planned for this next encounter. Not this one, the next encounter. Okay, this dragon thing. You hit it with normal stuff, it's okay. It hits you for a lot, but if you use magic on it, it has a counter for that. It casts Tornado. There are very, very many enemies with counterattacks in Final Fantasy IV. I think more than most other Final Fantasy games. Now, who are you, good sir? Pfft, any loser could have beaten Leviathan. Okay, Bahamut, King of the Monsters. In 5 of his turns, he will cast Mega Flare, which will kill our entire party. We can't do enough damage fast enough to stop this, but since we took a look at a little book in the Land of Summoned Monsters, we know that the key to beating him is casting Reflect on everyone. However, as we will find out, it's not quite that simple. Even with the help of the Reading Rainbow, Bahamut can still do some very nasty things to us. Still, hit him as much as you can. There's a reason I specifically wanted to have Fusoya, which is to cast Reflect much more quickly so I could have the mages do other things. Hey, Berserk went through. Okay, so here's the problem. If you start casting right at the beginning, the Reflect status will actually wear off the first two people that you cast it on, so they get smashed by Mega Flare. And I don't think Life 2 is gonna help us out much here. I just need them standing. But I think that now that we've done all that, we can do enough damage to finish him before the next Mega Flare. So, let's see how you like it, you jerk. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, Bahamut, the ultimate summon magic is now ours. It's about 3 times as powerful as Titan, but still costs only about 60 MP. It can't be reflected like Flare can. And it hits everybody. So, that's it for this session. And I will be seeing you next time, where we head back to Earth in Final Fantasy IV. Bye!